It's early October, and this is just a great time to be in the greenhouse. Things are blooming. The daytime temperatures are in the high 60s, low 70s. Nighttime temperatures on the Central California coast are low 50s. We got a couple days next week where we may see temperatures in the high 40s. So windows are starting to get closed at night, at least partially. And during the day, since it's cooler, my mist system has now been deactivated. If we get some days in the 80s, I'll reactivate it. But I'm watering about once every morning. When it's going to be a cloudy, foggy day like we've had a few days in the past week, I may skip a day or two of watering. But Red Dragon, Renathra Red Dragon, is really looking great. 3 bloom spikes are now fully open. Here's the upper one. And there's some Cattleya hybrids. This is kind of an odd orchid. I haven't been able to find much information on it. It was described as SC, so I'm assuming it was Saffrolea Cattleya Raybar. And it was one of the plants we got from a Hawaiian grower as a plug and grew it on, and then purchased it at one of our silent auctions a few years back. This is an orchid you've seen many times. This is from Sunset Valley Orchids, one of their compact Cattleyas. And I'll put the name up there when I finish this video processing it. This is Ageranus lutea alba. And again, just great little flowers, bright white with these orange columns in the center. I've got quite a few of these that I've mounted on oak and grapevines, and they're doing quite well. I'll just take a quick look at a few of the orchids that are currently in bloom. And again, this Miltonia that's been blooming regularly for the last numerous months is still putting out more flower spikes, and here's another spike that's going to be blooming in a little bit. So I think it's going to set a record for having blooms open every month for the last year. We'll see how things go November and December. Another Miltonia Belvedere. And again, I really like the color intensity of lip on this guy. And then here's a Phragmipedium from Equigenera. I haven't been very successful at growing these. They like cooler temperatures. They tend to grow on stream banks. And this is Phragmipedium Ivan Portia. And Ivan has done a great job in hybridizing here, if Ivan was the one who created the hybrid at Equigenera. But this grows in a small trough kept filled with water, so it's somewhat semi-hydroponic. But this will have multiple blooms and will probably continue to stay in bloom for the next probably 2 months. And then there is a spike developing in the back, so we'll even have a more extended bloom period. So that's Phragmipedium Ivan Portia, and you can see this is in the shadier northwest corner of the greenhouse where I have a number of ferns growing and lower light intensity orchids. I did want to mention 2 things. You may have noticed what looks like large amounts of fungus growing out of the base plates of my wooden greenhouse, but I have had a problem with mice in the greenhouse all summer. And so what I did is I took insulating foam in a spray can, and every place I saw where there's a possible knot hole or a little bit of rot, I used spray foam. And what I'll do is I'll go back with a putty knife and scrape off the excess. But I have controlled the migration of mice into the greenhouse quite effectively by plugging every hole that I found in my sill plates. So that was one major victory, because I did have mice that were starting to eat some of the new growths of my Cattleyas, and it was a little bit disturbing. The other thing I'll mention is that as my Cattleya berringianas start to coming into bloom, I've moved them. I rearranged the back part of my shady greenhouse so I have a little more display space. And in pulling out some of the orchids that were towards the back of the greenhouse, there is a fair amount of scale developing. You can see on the leaves. In spite of my spraying with water-soluble soap and peppermint oil, there's still a fair amount of scale. So I'm going to start spraying. Actually, 2 weeks ago, I did start spraying with Safari, which is a systemic pesticide. And I try to avoid a lot of spraying of pesticides because I have so many frogs and occasional garter snake and other predators that come into the greenhouse and help control insects, mice, and what have you. But scale is a particular problem, and so I will be spraying probably 3 times every 2 to 3 weeks, and that should, as with using a systemic insecticide, start to control these outbreaks of scale. And this will now get sprayed with a little bit of soap and peppermint oil until I get a chance to get my sprayer out and spray the Safari. So that's just 2 notes for a little bit of maintenance in the greenhouse in October. Moving on to the brighter side of the greenhouse, this is one of my favorites. This is a Laelia. It's a little strange name. It's Phoeniciana Kennedys, and the Kennedy's version is this pinkish coloration with the yellow throat, but just a stunning orchid, growing fairly well, and you can see the roots are growing out of a homemade slatted wooden basket. So this is obviously outgrowing the basket and is going to need some transplanting next year, but just a great orchid, great color, and just a good grower for me. And now we have LC Mini Purple. This is the cerulean form, and I've got several of these orchids that we bought as plugs as a society, and then they'll be put up for auctions in our silent auction in a few upcoming meetings of Five Cities Orchid Society. My Laelia hybrid that was pretty early growing is now in the final stages of bloom. Another LC Mini Purple with a few buds just developing. And then you've seen the Rhynchostylus retusa in last month continuing to look good and growing. And I'll put the names of these guys in when I process the video. And then I will just show you this Address lutea alba. You can see it's blooming, doing well. This is on a piece of grapevine. But what surprised me is this is the same group of orchids that I bought as plugs. And this has been kept in under brighter conditions. And you can see it's on a grapevine. And roots are much more developed. The leaves are larger, but this one failed to bloom. So the ones that I've kept in shader areas and just moved them to the brighter area now to showcase them as they're blooming, they bloomed and sent spikes up. But the ones that this one growing in much brighter conditions seems to be growing quite well, but did not send up, either of these 2 plants send up bloom spikes, which is kind of surprising. And then we'll just walk out towards the front. And again, my second Miltonia belvedere. And then we'll be back in a few weeks in October to show you a few orchids that are just now setting buds and should be blooming in a few weeks. This is Paphiopedilum maude, and this is one of the easier paths to grow. So if you're interested in slipper orchids, this one is in a relatively shady area. It's underneath my ficus tree, and so it's got fairly low light levels. Growing in a plastic pot with bark as the media, but this amazingly has got 5 flower spikes. So we're looking forward to some really great blooms for this Paphiopedilum maude. We're now approaching the end of October, and there is one orchid in bloom that I wanted to show you. Pretty spectacular. This is Stanhope oculata, and oculata refers to the eye spots on the flower, which you'll see in a moment. This plant was given to me by Chris Erler, and what's kind of interesting is Chris grows staghorn ferns, and when I planted this up, I noticed a few shields developing, if you're familiar with staghorn ferns, and it looks like I've got a few more. Now these will have to be removed because they will take over the plant. There's one rather large one up on the top that's starting to crowd out the Stanhope. But this is just a spectacular orchid, Central, South America, I believe Mexico as well. Very unique in that the bloom spike emerges through the root zone and grows downward. So you have to grow them in wire baskets lined with sphagnum moss, and then the media is perlite and bark. And I'll just come in and show you the eye spots on these flowers, which is pretty distinctive. And the one amazing aspect of this plant that's really hard to believe is the fragrance. There's a lot of Stanhopes that have somewhat medicinal camphor type fragrances. But right now, the entire greenhouse is filled with the fragrance of mint chocolate chip ice cream. It's hard to believe. I didn't believe it when I first read it, so I searched long and hard to find oculata, and thanks to Chris for giving me this division. But the entire greenhouse smells like an ice cream parlor, and it is just fantastic. The only downside to this orchid that I can point out is the blooms will only last a few days, probably, since we're getting a little warm weather now, 2 to 3 days, and then we'll be gone. But just a fantastic orchid. Everyone who grows them in our area just always remarks the fragrance and the spectacular bloom spikes. So if you have an opportunity to grow Stanhope oculata, boy, I highly recommend it, especially if you like mint chocolate chip ice cream. And so on a very foggy morning at the end of October, I'm just going to end with a few photos of some of the other orchids that I have blooming in my greenhouse. Again, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy.